We're gonna make today what I like to call lemony orange fat bombs. And it's ketogenic, so for those of you who are watching, you can make this without having to add carbs to it, or very few carbs. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with what's called coconut butter, also known as coconut manna. This brand is coconut butter, I just spilled some. What I've done is I've got it in this hot water because it's usually hard at room temperature, and that's what's going to make your fat bomb set up into something hard versus just being squishy and not being able to pick it up. So you want to melt this coconut butter down first just by putting it, like I said, in I boiled some water, and it's been sitting in there for like five minutes or so. Stir it really well, and then you're going to measure out 1.5 cups. So this thing I'm using here I really like because it's called a metric wonder cup, because it's easier to get the ingredients out of it. So I'm just going to fill it up with, as I spill my water, with some of this coconut manna. Just pour it in, or coconut butter. One brand is called manna, so you may have heard it called that. It's not the oil, though. It's the actual butter, which is the fiber and the fat together. And it tastes quite sweet on its own, but it's still pretty low carb. Is 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. This could also be melted down, but it's pretty squishy because it's warm in my house. So 2 tablespoons of that. This is going to make a nice large batch of fat bombs. So I'm the kind of person that thinks if I'm going to do something, I'm just going to make a big batch of it instead of having to keep doing it. But if you're one of those people that even with keto foods, if you just eat it all because it's in the house, then maybe make smaller batches. So we got the 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and I'm going to just squish that in and kind of start to get that to melt together while the other stuff's still warm. The key to working with coconut is that it should be on the warmer side because it just softens up much easier that way. So it looks almost like a cake batter, doesn't it? It's really nice. Squish that up. All right, that's going to soften while it's just sitting in that warm batter. Okay, next is we need some sweet leaf stevia. Now I like to use this brand because it also has inulin in it. So the brand when you buy it is called Sweet Leaf Stevia Sweetener. It's not super concentrated like some stevias are, and you can get this at most health food stores. But look in the back and make sure that it says inulin is the first ingredient, okay? And inulin is just fiber, so that's great. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of this, and it seems like a lot, but it's because the inulin or fiber is in there that you need more than you think you would need. The next thing is our essential oil. Now you could use lemon, or you can use something like orange, or actually you could use peppermint oil. You could use whatever you want in this, but today we're focusing on the citrus. So I'm going to use about 12 drops, 11, 12 of the orange oil. It smells amazing. And then we got some vanilla we want to put in here too. And I'm going to use vanilla extract because there is no vanilla essential oil. Although you could use medicine flour. If you have that, you could use about 12 drops of that. Or 1.5 teaspoons of actual vanilla extract. So get that mixing in. And then we want to do the salt. So I like to use high mineral salt. This is the real salt from Utah. See all those mineral flecks that are in there? It's pretty awesome. So about 1/4 teaspoon. Just shake that in. That's just going to bring out the flavor in this. The next ingredient is our lucuma. Lucuma is actually a dried fruit, and it is a little higher on the glycemic index. So if you want it super low carb, you could use what's called mesquite powder, and that's a pod from a tree. It's very cooling. It gives things like a graham crackery crust. So for me, I'm more into lower carb versus it being a little on the sweet side. So you could mix the 2 together if you want like half and half. So I think I'll do that. I'll do 1/2 cup of mesquite and then 1/2 cup of lucuma or lucuma, however you want to pronounce that. Ooh, get that in there. Ooh, way too much. Way too much. All right, that's good. I don't want to put too much in because... All right. Probably better to scoop those kind of things with a spoon, All right, the next ingredient we need. Now, this is something I created. It's called lemon peel powder. Whenever I juice a lot of lemons, I just cut them up and dehydrate them into this beautiful powder. So about 4 teaspoons of this and or lemon zest. So I'm going to do, let's do 3 teaspoons of the powder. And when you dry the powder and grind it, it has a super sweet smell to it. And it's the perfect addition, and it's actually free because most people throw out their lemon peels. So it's a really great addition to any lemony recipe. But then we'll also throw a little bit of zest in there as well. I just love the tang of a citrus zest. And in the summertime, this is a really cooling, just refreshing, kind of cold little fat bomb to have around. You're going to keep these either in your fridge or your freezer. They're best refrigerated for texture, but some people freeze them just so they have a place to store them that's kind of out of the way. At room temperature, they're going to be a little soft. You could bring them to a party, but just make sure that you keep them refrigerated right till it's time to serve them. Okay, got most of that lemon zest. I'll just juice the lemon later and use it in something else. All right. So one of our last ingredients is our dried coconut shreds. So let's get this baby, just adjust that a little bit, make sure you guys can see. Get that really well mixed up before I add the coconut shreds. And it is starting to cool down, so it's a little harder to mix. So if that happens, you could just warm it up by putting this in a bowl and then putting hot water underneath it. I think I'm going to be okay, though. It's actually quite dark, and that's the mesquite that's doing that. So it's almost like a cookie-like looking. It's going to end up being almost like a cookie when it's said and done. It smells fabulous, though. And then I just need to taste it for flavor. I'm just going to use my hands because it really is a texture that's pretty easy to work with. And it's probably going to be a strong flavor before I add the coconut shreds. You don't have to add the coconut shreds if you like the flavor before you add the coconut. Let's just taste it and see what I think. Really good. I could go either way with the coconut, but I think I will add some of these shreds in just to give it a little texture. I want to give it a little bit more of a zingy lemon flavor as well. And that can come from something called malic acid. It makes things kind of sour. So if you want it to be a little more sour, you could add a dash of malic acid powder just for tang, or you could just put a little more lemon zest in to give it that flavor. But it does taste quite delicious. It's almost like a cookie. I'm actually not going to add the malic acid because I feel like I really like the texture of this right now. I mean, not the texture, the flavor of this right now. And because it's not too sour. So this is going to end up being more just like a lemon orange cookie bomb, okay? And then what you want to do is just take those. Let me get this rinsed off, not rinsed, but shaken off. This is my, what I call my peanut butter cup molds. I use these for a lot of things. And you can just press them into these. They're going to come out looking beautiful. I don't worry too much about being neat. I'll show you how to clean it all up at the end. Right now you're just kind of getting it in there. And wow, that texture and that flavor is amazing. What are some other things you guys could add in? You could add in some nuts if you wanted to this. If you're someone who likes chocolate chips, you could add that in. It doesn't go great with the citrus flavor, but it wouldn't be the worst ever. You could add in some goji berries too. That's going to raise the carb count, so I'm not someone who goes for fruit really at all. But if you are making this for someone who doesn't care about the carbs, you could switch out stevia for like honey, and then you could, or coconut sugar if you want, although I think honey's probably like a more of a nutritious choice as far as that goes. Yeah, so this is gonna make a lot, as you can see. I could even form these into just little dough balls, but I do like the way it looks when it goes into these little forms. So I'm going to do it that way. Other ingredients you could add to this are maca, just like a teaspoon of it. You could add some medicinal mushroom powder like lion's mane. There's just, the sky's the limit, really. Just switch out the flavors and it could be really whatever you want it to be. Like I said before, peppermint and chocolate would go well together, and then just do the vanilla and skip the orange oil. All right, so now that I've got that pretty much full, I'm going to use my handy dandy bash and chop in here. Actually, I don't have a bash and chop handy, but I do have a spatula I can use. So some kind of something that has an edge to it, and you can just kind of scrape the tops and then press them back down in. That's an easier way than to try and figure out the exact perfect amount every time, unless you're making this for a business, in which case you'd probably need to weigh it. This is pretty easy though. And then we're going to pop these in the freezer just to get them to set up for not very long at all, a couple minutes. And then I'll come back and show you what they look like when they're set up. Alrighty, the fat bombs are ready. So they freeze up really quickly because of that coconut. So all you're going to do is just pop them out. And you can serve them on a platter, like I said, at a party. Or just put them in a Tupperware. Or even just leave them in these molds and then they'll be ready for you when you want them. I generally can't eat more than 2 of these. So your carbs end up being only about maybe 4 to 6 net carbs for eating 2 of them. They're really low carbs, so that's kind of exciting. And it's the perfect little treat when you're getting off sugar and you just need something. Now, what I did after I stopped filming is I took the second half of the batch and added some turmeric into it. And as you can see, it kind of changed the color up a little bit. It made it a little bit brighter. And you'll actually get more of the anti-inflammatory benefits in it as well. So it was probably all total, maybe for the whole batch, you could add 1 to 2 teaspoons of turmeric to make it that particular color. So the difference is just a little bit more of a yellowy color to them. So there you go. There's your lemon orange fat bombs.